Hi, my name is Hissom, and I'm from Orlando, Florida. Well, I grew up in a ministry home. The 3 generations of preachers that precede me, and my family's been running an inner city mission in Charleston, West Virginia since the 1930s. Loving the poor and in an incarnational way has been a big part of my family's legacy. But I really didn't want to have anything to do with that or the church or God. I just wanted to do what I wanted to do, and that just led me down a path of a very typical path of self-destructive behavior and addiction, and didn't work out, and long and short. But somewhere along the line, I ran into some guys who met me in my distress, challenged me that my healing would come through helping others, and basically said, if you don't start helping other people, you're gonna die. And I believed it. I trusted them enough to believe that they were telling me the truth, and started doing that. A couple years into it, I still had those questions about what does it mean, what does it matter, which led me back to really answering those questions about God. Is He real? Is Jesus who He says He was and is? And bottom line is, I realized I believed that. I believed the gospel story, and began to confess my problems, not just as difficulties, but as sin, and accept His forgiveness. But that came a couple years after just really trying to be of help in the world. But I came to faith, and then experienced some very troubling things about looking at just my family's legacy and ministry. It's very great that we've helped a lot of people, but there's been a cost. And the cost is that we can sometimes not see our own neediness, and it's led to some tragic consequences in our family. My father got to the point where he couldn't really imagine anyone meeting need in his life, and he died very tragically a couple of years ago, and that really changed my life. I first learned that I had something to offer even in my distress and neediness. But I also saw that, well, some people who seem to have it all together are really dying inside and hurting, and their needs are not being addressed by the church or their families or in their relationships. And that was very convicting. And then lastly, my wife, watching her come to faith, she came to faith after I did, seeing how I really was powerless to really change her, and really learning to just be dependent on prayer and God, and calling out to Him, and watching Him and others that she got to meet be the instruments of change, and how I was called to love her regardless of whether she changed or came to faith or not. And over a course of 3 years, just seeing that happen, and committing myself to praying for her and loving her, and then watching God change her and heal her and bring her to faith, just really blew me away. So, my story is really about learning my neediness of God, and how even in my neediness, I really have something to offer. In fact, something very powerful to offer. I have, God's perfect power. That His power made perfect in weakness is true. It's not just a concept. But I also know that there's a lot of people out there who act like they have it all together, feel like they have it all together, and just are burning up. And God has called me to speak to them and challenge them to really enjoy the fruit of repenting to a God who forgives, and just living that out. So, my story is one of just a typical story of redemption, but it's called me to really carry on the family legacy. I'm in a different state, but I'm in one of the most distressed neighborhoods in Central Florida, and just getting to know people, getting to learn what their hopes and concerns are, and trying to be a bridge to people of means who want to make a difference in the world but don't know how to cross those barriers. And so we're called to be here, to be that conduit of having those experiences that God has led us through, to be an inspiration to those who want to make a difference, and those who want to know their value. We did a 3-year research project while I was in seminary, and it just was really convicting to me about the fact that the church, the people in the pews of the churches want to make a difference. And we really, as a body, as the body of Christ, don't tend to know how and where to act. So we wanted to answer those questions because we think that in that, people really can grow in their faith, can really make a difference in the world. And we wanted to start an organization that would help do that, to help know the church know where to act, how to act in ways that are really going to bring healing and transformation.